changed rural subsistence economies to cash. This weakened the clan-based governance systems and made socio-economic and physical mobility of the rural areas and smaller town populations possible. As a result, migration from the rural and other urban areas to Karachi started to take place to meet the demands for the skilled and unskilled labor required for Karachi's phenomenal growth and development. In the process, Karachi ceased to be an island. And in my book, Migration and Small Towns in Pakistan, I show how this migration from the small towns affected the big towns and changed them completely in sociological terms. Meanwhile, with industrialization and the development of a services sector in trade and commerce, a Punjabi and Mahajir middle class whose interests were actively promoted by the right wing in Pakistan evolved in Karachi more strongly than anywhere else. The absence of democracy in the 60s deprived the city of a process of consensus building, and as a result, the left-right center-province Urdu-Sindhi divide increased. There are a number of reasons for this, which I cannot dwell on here for want of time. However, for the first time during the movement against Ayub Khan in 1968, alcohol outlets, bars, and music halls were attacked. These were on a small scale. However, during the conflict between the People's Party and the Pakistan National Alliance in 1977, the attacks were so serious that Karachi's nightlife, bars and billiard rooms had to close down. The city was paralyzed, and to appease the PNA, the Bhutto government declared Friday in place of Sunday as the weekly holiday, banned alcohol, closed down discotheques and cabarets, and Karachi's thriving racecourse. As a result, Karachi changed overnight. The people working these establishments became destitute, and Karachi's multi-class entertainment and recreational spaces became deserted. Their premises over time have become wholesale markets, marriage halls, and more recently, shopping plazas. In my book, Understanding Karachi, I've identified all their locations, names, and the changes that have taken place. And we have located the men, the hustlers, some of them who have survived. But you know, that city was one city. Today, this city is 4 distinct cities. And one of those cities doesn't interact with any of the 3. You know? So this is a very important change, I think, that needs to be grasped about Karachi. It is more than possible that if the democratic process had continued, then through a system of negotiation and pragmatic give and take, a new culture, the synthesis between the cultures of the 2 political opponents could have evolved. Discussions between the operators of the banned entertainment facilities, political opponents of the Bhutto regime, and the Karachi establishment were already taking place. However, Ziaul Haq's military coup of 1977 made such compromises impossible. Now, these compromises have taken place in many cities where Islamists have asserted themselves. They've taken place in Cairo, they've taken place in Amman, they've taken place in Damascus. Today they are in the process of taking place in Turkey. So this could have happened, perhaps, in our case as well, but it did not happen. Here it is important to look at how the policies of the Zia government, aided by the Afghan war and backed by the West, have shaped the Karachi of today. So let me just go through some of the things that I've jotted down that happened in Zia's time, which were important to this city. And I think it is important to talk about them. We don't talk about them, we've forgotten them. 3 things that Zia did, 3 enactments, had a major effect on Karachi, more than any other part of Pakistan. The first was the Zuhr prayers were made compulsory in public institutions. The second was Zakat, which initiated a major Shia-Sunni conflict, and the Shias marched upon Islamabad. The third was Nazim-e-Salat. He was someone appointed by the mosque, supported by the state, who early in the morning roamed the neighborhood with a loudspeaker, asking people to come to prayer. Those who did not come to prayer were contacted in the evening, very politely, and asked why they did not come to prayer. And so this institution became very powerful. What happened because of these three things was that everyone came to know who was a Shia, who was a Sunni, who was an Ahmadi, who was a Christian, who was a Hindu. They already knew that before. But here this became important. This issue became important because of the role of the mosque and the Nazim-e-Salat. So this had a very big effect on a multi-class, multi-ethnic, multi-religious city. They're not so in the rest of Pakistan. The second thing that Zia did was to support and patronize ethnic and religious groups. And this led to a major weakening of the institutions of governance and justice. And it was the beginning of the fragmentation of Karachi, because the institutions became weak, the ethnicities became stronger because of this patronage. So today in Karachi, and it happened in Zia's, it had begun in Zia's time, if your a friend or relation is detained by the police, or you want your child to get an admission in a government school, or you have property matters, today even personal matters, family matters, you don't go to a court of law, you go to your ethnic organization, and they settle it for you. I mean, I've worked now in these low-income settlements for 40 years, and I can tell you that it was not like that before, but it has become like this. It is now, you go to them. They are your guardians. They are the ones who support you. Then another thing happened. Because the religious parties had access to the corridors of power, therefore these ethnic groups had to go to the religious parties to access the corridors of power. Now, we have documented this whole process in considerable detail, and it's present in my writings. Now, this is the inheritance which has now consolidated itself to a large extent over time. However, the most serious damage that was done to society in Karachi was the banning of extracurricular activities in all public sector colleges and universities. These colleges and universities had produced the most outstanding Pakistanis and the most radical Pakistanis in art, in literature, in politics, as professionals, and to a lesser extent as sportsmen. अब इसकी मैं मिसाल दूँ. Your cricket team in the 80s, up to the 80s, came from universities and colleges because you had sports. Your present cricket team comes off the street. I'm not belittling the present cricket team. I think it's a better team than the previous ones. But I'm just pointing out that this change had a very strong impact on the social fabric of the country. Debates were allowed, but the subjects of the debates had to be approved by the DC, and subsequently a list was given to the administration of colleges as to what debates should and should not be allowed. So debates on theological issues and debates on Pakistan ideology issues were permitted. That was so. Then you had a new curriculum that was imposed for the schools, and this curriculum had no international history, world history, and it had no world geography. The Pakistani student, For him, it was decided that it was enough for him